about it. It's almost as if ambassadorial appointments are tokenism, just as cabinet secretaries has been in this government, and maybe also in governments gone by. So I understand that apprehension, and there is a confusion indeed about the extent and role of the mandate of ambassadorial appointments or ambassadors, and the role of the office of the foreign affairs. And when you go, they keep throwing people around. Go to the to the embassy, then go to the foreign affairs, then go to attorney generals. There's lack of clarity there. So for me, while appreciating the challenge raised by the last speaker, Fabish, we also have to throw a challenge, because under Section 4 of the Law Society of Kenya Act, in terms of enforcement of the rule of law and on the insistence and assistance to government in administration and guidance on the enforcement of the rule of law, I think this is an area that has been left bare. This is an area that has been left without guidance and without proper clarification, because these ambassadors are paid by public funds. So anybody earning a penny on public funds, from public funds, needs to be accountable on their job description and in what it is that they do there. There was a story long time ago about an ambassador who was sent into a country and ended up becoming a drunkard simply because they did not have or did not know what to do. So they will end up hosting endless cocktails. Is it what they do with our public funds? Is it what they do when they go out there? So this is another area of accountability. And I want us, even as we keep engaging, to interrogate every aspect of our public administration, of our governance, of our representation, internally and externally, so that then we address and be able to address all these issues that are rising. Because so many times we've had to be able to seek other lawyers in foreign jurisdictions to come through for Kenyan citizens who have come into with the law. So I understand what Fabish is saying, and my challenge is to the Law Society of Kenya to continue expanding its area of reach, its area of influence, and just asking tougher questions. It has been asking so far. Excellent work to the team led by Faith Odhiambo, and yourself, Manwa, and Mora Kabata, and the rest of the council members. Excellent work that you're doing. Continue asking these tough questions, continue engaging relevant authorities, and with these particular spaces, we'll be able to know what our people are going through and be able to intervene. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Zach. Council, I don't know whether ASK, Ochi you have the microphone. We have Steve, we have Francis, we have Pius. Any of you who want to take up the mic, kindly. We have Simon and Buck. Any of you, so that we can drop you. We have so many speakers who want to speak. Buck, kindly proceed.
Hello.
Kindly proceed. We can hear you.
Hello.
Buck.
I'm on.
Let's have Buck, and then we can have the rest of you. Please. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello. Thank you for giving me the mic. I hope you can all hear me.
Hello. Can you hear me, guys?
For order, let's have
from my side.
Hold on a bit, yeah. I think we had a speaker proceeding,
yes,
right?
I was speaking.
Okay, kindly proceed.
All right. I hopped onto this space a little after it had started, so I don't know if this question has been brought up, and if it has, I apologize in advance. But my issue is a little bit more immediate. I understand as we are planning what to do next, how we are going to proceed, what measures we're going to put in place. The cabinet was fired yesterday, but we know that they have been doing things there for the last 2 years. And I wanted to find out, is there a way that we can pause, because they are going to bring in new people. Oh, crap, sorry. There's a dog barking, sorry. So I was saying they're going to bring in new people who we are hoping will be straightforward people who are clean, people will do work that is not tainted by corruption of the people who've left. But we also know that the truth is the institutions are the ones that are corrupt. So what can we do to assess the state of the current institutions? Because if the bath water is dirty and you bring in something and you put it in the dirty water, whatever you put in is going to be tainted. So what can we do right now to assess the state of the ministries? We had information yesterday, someone talking about how JKI is about to be leased out to some organization for 30 years. And that's just one of the things that have been, brought out to the light. Is there anything we can do as a people, as the LSK, to say that all the ministries needed to be audited to find out what deals have they put in place, which ones have already been okayed, how were they okayed, what kind of public participation was involved in these deals as they were being made? Are there any corrupt deals? Is it possible for them to be cancelled? And then this needs to be brought out to light, because if you don't sweep, if you don't throw out the dirty water, everything that is put in there is still going to be tainted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's have Simon. Simon, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
You have the microphone. Kindly proceed.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity to raise a few questions. I just have a few questions for the legal team, because I think you guys are much more advanced when it comes to constitutional matters. One thing that I'm worried about is the way our government is structured. It creates a little bit of inefficiencies because of also duplications of roles. So, for example, the former CS of health was coming under fire because of the posting of medical interns. But if you look at the way the health sector is structured legally, her hands are tied, because we devolved the health docket to the county government. Now, I've done a little bit of reading, and I know that there was an idea that was proposed in the drafting of the constitution, where there was supposed to be the National Health Commission was supposed to be created to take care of our medics. And I guess my question to the LSK is there any way that you can help out to push some of these agendas forward? Because having an institution like the National Health Commission would really aid the young people in the medical fraternity who are trying to prop up their careers. If we don't take such moves or execute some of these strategies, we're going to be stuck in the same rant over and over again. It's quite unfair, because the teachers have their own teacher service commission. Parliament has its own parliamentary service commission. Judges have their own judicial service commission. But our doctors, our nurses, and this is a critical sector of our economy or of our country. They do not have their own commission to take care of their well-being. So maybe my question to the team in LSK, is there a way that you can help? And maybe also throwing another thing out there. This whole movement came because of the country's financial position. Now, I have a background in finance and economics, and I know very well that we have been burdened by debt. And I know people are throwing shade at the IMF, but the IMF came in to assist in as much as the way it assists us is usually pretty painful. But Kenya is overrepresented and underserved. We have too many lawmakers, both on the national level and also on the county level. And I believe, I know it's an uncomfortable conversation for Kenyans to have, but the only way we are going to rescue our country from the pit is if we shrink the size of the government, particularly shrinking the size of county governments, because 47 having 47 counties in one country is just ridiculous. There is no country in this world that has such an expensive structure of government like Kenya. It's too expensive, and if we are not able to admit that to ourselves, then we'll always be stuck in debt and overtaxation territory. My last question would be on police reforms. So today there's news about bodies being retrieved. So my question is can the LSK help push for police reforms, especially when it comes to the mode in which somebody is arrested and taken to the police station? Because over the past couple of weeks, we've seen police officers in plain clothes huddle people into private vehicles. I mean, there's no label on the police car. I mean, it's actually not a police car. There are no plates. Do we have a policy that if I am arrested and I'm taken to a police station, I am afforded a phone call to call a couple of friends or my family members so that at least they know where I am? And if the police do not follow such protocols, are there penalties? Is there a way to take action on police officers who do not follow certain protocols? If anybody can help me out, I would answer some of these questions. Maybe I would really appreciate. I will leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Simon. I will split some of these questions to several of the advocates on this forum. And I think I appreciate the fact that we have some of our noble members within the forum. We still have Ndegwa here. We still have Zach here. Let me just respond to a simple some of the questions that have been addressed to the Law Society, and the legal questions will be addressed by the advocates on this forum. And particularly, I'll address the question of documentation of what has been happening the last few months, the last few weeks, and whether there is an institution that is documenting what is happening. I can inform you without any fear of contradiction that the Law Society has been documenting all conversations, including this one and the rest of other conversations happening in other spaces, because we have our representatives in those spaces on the views of the members of the public, and we will be able to channel those views either through the parliament or through the courts. As I indicated earlier, we have a committee that is dealing with questions of legislation. We have a committee that advises the National Assembly on every bill, including the finance bill, on what the public feels right and what the law requires that those bills should conform to. And I believe I've answered that question in terms of documentation. And I think this question stretches to the question of Simon as to whether the Law Society is privy to what is happening in terms of the bodies that are being retrieved from the different spaces as a result of Kenyan citizens exercising their right to demonstrate. You will be surprised to note that the Law Society is on the ground. It already knows the number of people who were dumped within that space. We are working closely with human rights organizations and civil societies, and we are documenting these issues. And so that you know, and I think most of you have seen that the IPOA, Independent Police Oversight Authority, issued a statement earlier as on the questions of abductions, injuries, and murder questions of individuals who demonstrated their rights to demonstrate in the streets, we are following up keenly because we initiated the conversation with them. We intend to hold them accountable to the last person who has been found to dead, injured, abducted, or whose rights in terms of being held at a police station was beyond the 24 hours period. I guarantee you that as the Law Society will ensure that the individuals within those offices will be held accountable. And I am happy that the bodies that were found next to a police station. It's very obvious that if a police station is next to a place where injustices were committed, then the OCS in that station, the police officers in that station must take responsibility as to how those bodies were dumped there opposite a police station, how they got themselves there, how these people were murdered, and how they were and how their lives were taken away. Remember, every police station within this country, and I think this is what most of our members should appreciate, that a police station is supposed to protect the public. The reason why we have police officers within our spaces, where we live, where we reside, and to the lowest units, including the chiefs and relevant officers concerns within the regions, it's important to know that they are supposed to secure the protection of the public. But when they aid and abet in the murder, execution of innocent members of the public, then as a law society, we will have to hold them accountable. There are questions that have been raised about duplication of roles. Allow me to throw that question to any of the councils here, Ndegwa and Alakonya, the question of police reforms. And I think most of you know the role the Law Society has been playing in ensuring that the police reforms are effected and that people do not hide behind the institutions where they have been appointed to and orchestrate violations against the Constitution and then hide behind the office that they have. And as I spoke earlier, I indicated that we have to ensure that the individuals in office must take personal responsibility. Any public officer, and this does not speak to the police officers alone, it does not speak to the Inspector General of Police, the Director of Public Prosecution, the Director of the National, the NIS, the Attorney General. The people we have put in those offices must take personal responsibility for actions of their own officers that violate fundamental constitutional rights. At this juncture, I want to invite Alakonya or Ndegwa to respond to Simon's questions on duplication and the health issues. I want to invite them to also to address the questions of whether we can hold our ministries responsible for the corruptions within those spaces, and whether the ministries can be audited. And I think we had an earlier conversation about audit, and we said under Article 229, the Constitution allows the Auditor General to actually audit all public institutions, including the Office of the President, on the expenditure of the public money. I reiterated the position of the Law Society on the question of the President, Madam Faith Odhiambo, being appointed to the task force on the public debt. You remember the law society issued a communication that we will not participate in an extra constitutional task force on the basis of the provisions of the Constitution under Article 229, sub-article 4, that provides that the Auditor General has the mandate and supreme powers to audit all government entities every year, to actually give a report. And I ask the members of the public to visit the website, because these audit reports are actually recorded every year. If you go back in 2013, 2010, 2018, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, you will find to cumulative of 2024, because we have not finished this year, you will find reports, either adverse opinions or fair opinions, regardless of how the auditor determined. You will find those reports within that space and be able to actually institute proceedings or questions against those officers where adverse opinions have been issued. It's also important to note that the Auditor General's office is an independent office. And whereas it's a government office, there's a difference between independent constitutional offices and also government offices where the president can actually direct someone. The Auditor General, just like the other constitutional commissions and independent offices, the president cannot direct them, cannot instruct them. And these were some of the things that the drafters of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 put in place to ensure that there is nobody who's above the law, that the president is not above the law, that the Chief Justice is not above the law, that the respective speakers of the National Assemblies are not above the law. They have to be put under scrutiny, and they have to actually substantiate the decisions they make. I will not go back to the Montesquieu rules on separation of powers and the respective functions of the independent offices that are in place under the three arms of government. But again, I understand the electorate, the members of the public, the citizens have the benefit of knowledge, the benefit of wisdom to read the Constitution of Kenya and interpret it the way they wish, and actually hold the people they put in office on the spot, especially when they go wrong or when they go against the Constitution. I invite, I don't know whether Ndegwa has a response to Mr. Simon's proposal before I invite Abdullah or Steve and Francis, kindly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, host, for the invitation and the honor to address this distinguished assembly. Indeed, this assembly will go in history of the assemblies that met to deliberate on the most important and fundamental issues affecting our democracy. As we all know, is that our democracy is at a crossroad. Our democracy is uncertain. The course to which our democracy will take henceforth is not capable of being ascertained as at now, because there are so many moving parts. And these moving parts are the ones that are bringing up about the question of duplicity. I will address duplicity in respect of the current existing situation and whether or not this duplicity can be harnessed to bring forth the question of synergy. I'm aware that there are some institutions that are undertaking some roles, like the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. I have met one of the commissioners, I'll not mention his or her name, and I'm aware that they are doing serious documentation on the matters and the episodes that are unfolding. But remember, the Kenya National Human Rights Commission is an affiliate of government. It's also paid, or rather, they draw their finances from the exchequer, and there's some extent that they cannot perhaps be able to push because of the delicate balance that they find themselves in. On the other hand, LSK, having been established via an act of parliament, enjoys some serious autonomy because we are autonomous. We do not get financed by government. We do not even know, sometimes we never benefit from government. So I believe by now we need to have established perhaps even something like a committee or um, a sector within ourselves to collate and collect the evidence in respect to the unfolding events. You remember, towards the clamor of the multi-party democracy, LSK was an integral player to the repealing of Section 2A. And to be honest, most of the people are awaiting the lawyers in various spaces to give guidance. Why so? Because the members of the public have realized that although we are engaging ourselves in a political question, it is not likely possible that we're able to resolve the political question without having to intermeddle with the constitution. Like I said earlier, there's perhaps an almost agreed preposition that this revolution must remain within the four corners of the constitution. So in any space that perhaps you might want to join in the future, lawyers are being taxed to give the way forward, to direct the debate, to direct the nation on how we can have a successful revolution within the four corners of the constitution. So when LSK undertakes perhaps to collect evidence, like of those 9 bodies that were um, uh, unfortunately discovered somewhere in a dump site, I do not think that LSK will be duplicating its roles. It is within the LSK statutory mandate to assist the community, even from a moral perspective, and not just to collect the evidence, but also to make sure that the evidence and evidence that is collected and collated is put into use and effect. So on that question of duplicity, I think we are good to go. We shall not be condemned of duplicity unless somebody else comes and says, I have also collected this evidence. I have done X, Y, Z in respect to the evidence that I have so far collected. So in my view, we need to move on. We need to soldier on. We need to create a serious parallel, perhaps, desk of missing persons so that we're able to take stock of those individuals who are missing. And this missing persons desk, I believe, should not be somewhere along Tanga Road. It must be a virtual one, because much of the revolution and much of the information is happening virtually. So we need to create a virtual desk where the details of missing persons are brought forth and known to the members of the LSK. So that then, if it then requires an habeas corpus application, we understand that then we can do this. If it's a question of perhaps collection of evidence in terms of post-mortems, we are able to understand and we're able to get effectively involved. Why? Because We must hold individuals to account of whatever is happening. We must hold them personally accountable. And that leads me to the question of the police reforms. Is it that the police reforms that we require at the moment, is the police participating in the extrajudicial killing because they have not reformed? I don't think so. The police is involved in extrajudicial killings and abductions because of impunity. We have failed to hold them to account. And the day we shall successively hold 2 or 3 police officers to account individually, I think shall send a certain message to the society, to the police force or the police community, that you do X, Y, Z, perhaps alleging orders from above, you'll be held personally accountable. The people pushing the revolution and the struggle forward, the Gen Zs, are depending mostly on lawyers and other professionals like the medics to assist them perpetuate and propagate the struggle forward. If the Gen Zs will get to know that LSK is ready with its lawyers, whoever will be arrested, we have a reporting desk, a virtual one. So we'll expect that we'll on the top on the snap of a finger, we'll be getting real-time information. On the question of the police reforms, let us not focus on the reforms at this time. The reforms are institutional in nature, will be required to involve other institutions and other stakeholders. As per now, what we are called upon to do is to stop the police from triggering when there is no desire or necessity to pull that trigger. We need to disarm them. And we cannot disarm them if we have, for the last 3 weeks, none of the police officers has been charged. We have not even challenged the office of the ODPP to tell us how far have you gone in initiating or making sure that the IG, the former IG or whichever institution has taken responsibility of executing the functions of investigations. So that then if you're not able to investigate within a periodic set time, we can be able to roll out other international juristic mechanisms. So in my view, reforms, we have the National Police Service Commission, which perhaps needs to be awakened because we created that organization under the Constitution to perpetuate and oversee the police reforms. But as per now, is a question of accountability. Why have you killed so-and-so who was so-and-so not armed? So in my view, Council and the members of the public present in this distinguished assembly, our role is to make sure that we disarm any person who is irresponsible and who is creating havoc in the struggle, and any person who is trying to sabotage the struggle. It does not matter whether Kithure Kindiki is home. As long as he gets lawful orders, he needs to understand that we are coming for you. In case, I'd like to rest my and pass over to the microphone for someone else to address the most crucial issues. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Thank you, Ndegwa Council. Cyprian, I hope you're here. Can we have Steve? Steve, I can see
Yes,
your hand is raised. Kindly
yes, sir.
proceed.
I will request you to, yes, I'll
Thank
request
you. Uh,
you before you proceed. Sorry to interrupt you, bro. After Steve, I'll kindly request you to allow Abdul Rahim to speak, Abdul Rahman to speak kindly. He's been on space for a while now.
That is
I think
fine. That is fine, actually. We can have him after Steve. Kindly. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Owakili. And I'm also happy to see LSK president around and Owakili Ndegwa. Now, My quick concern, literally, is a concern that I also need to be addressed, and I've had Wakili Ndegwa also mentioning part of it now. In my view, there's a total confusion on matters security and the justice system in Kenya. Why do I say this? People have been abducted and many found dead, and those lucky found in police cells. Then in court, they trump up charges for those who participate in protest. DPP, in its own wisdom, also approved some of these charges, quickly approved some of these charges, and to have the taxpayer be charged with full knowledge that some of these cases are likely to fall in court. And when you go to court again, the judiciary, on the other hand, entertains both the police and the prosecution and admits such charges against innocent Kenyan, who is accused of protesting, and it's also protected in the same laws. I don't understand completely. Just the other day, there's a charge that was going viral online here, where someone was brought before the court or was taken to court before a competent magistrate for allegedly saying Ruto must go. Who proved these charges? Is it the DPP? Is it the police? Is it the Kanjo? I don't understand. Even what happened to the freedom of expression. Now, between Ruto must go and what Farah Malim said the other day, who should be in custody or should be in court? Another concern that I also want to raise about IPOA. I've seen IPOA making an appeal for members of the public who can testify against police officers who are either seen shooting at people or shooting at the protesters. Is that not a setup? Who would easily want to come out openly and to go and testify against police? And we know our history in the past. The stories of Willie Kimani is not lost on us. I think IPOA has a capacity, or they are mandated to provide that civilian oversight. I've never seen IPOA during protest, but I've seen Law Society of Kenya, the council there, joining the protest, not to participate in protest, but also to see some of these atrocities meted on innocent Kenyans. But IPOA, they are sitting comfortably in their offices with always a generic form of writing statement there for press. We are investigating. We are investigating. A police officer shooting at innocent person. How long does it take you to go and process or take it to DPP and also approve such charges? How do you want us to testify against a police officer or policemen who have done all these things to innocent protesters? Well, already you've cleaned the scene of crime and everything. I think IPOA is a great letdown, and maybe Wakili will tell us, maybe I don't understand the role of IPOA, whether they should be there or it's just a toothless institution. I rest my case, and I also stand guided. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Abdul, you have the mic. We have taken up, Steve, we have taken up your questions. You'll be able to respond after Abdul. Thank you.
Thank you, comrades. Good evening. My name is Abdurrahman. I am speaking from Mombasa. I want to join those who spoke before me to say thank you and to give flowers to the Law Society of Kenya led by Madam President. We have seen the sacrifices you have made, and we will remember, not forget. This journey can be so scary. This journey can be so lonely. And this journey sometimes could be so discouraging. but you have been our trusted friend in our struggle for our country to be better. I want to start by saying it has been quite such a long day. So I'm not going to make a long submission, but I want to say that it has been such a long day. It started by the Citizens Assembly in Ufungamano, in which Madam President and the other partners, the other CSO, civil society organization partners, were taking accounts of the victims and their families and their friends of the ordeals they went through. And I want us to remember the position or the place of Fungamano in our liberation struggle. For those of us that are younger, probably we're going to invest more in reading to get to understand why it was very important for us to go back to Fungamano and remember and tap into the wisdom and the courage and the bravery of those who came before us. I was touched by the presence of those that were fighting before us, and also when tapping into the wisdom in the tweets of Paul Muite, Gitobi Manyara, and to top it up, to spice it up by the poem by Kivoda Kibwana. I'm saying this because sometimes it is our history that is going to define our future. And this is the fuel we need to remind ourselves, the new country that we need and the hope that we keep and we pray for, and the country and the vision we might want to have. So my heart is heavy. All the things that the victims were saying they went through, from the lady Nadia being visited by strangers when she's in a night dress, and all them wanting to her to dress up in their presence, and all the trauma and all the issues she's gone through, to the mother that is looking for the kid Mwangi, up to so many victims and the stories, Okayo, Joshua, and all that. Our hearts are heavy. The day has been long. But to make it worse, in the evening and the late afternoon, the discovery of bodies in Kware, in Mukuru, have worsened it. I would love to move a proposal in this citizen assembly that it will be endorsed by members here, that the Law Society of Kenya and the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Pharmacists and Dentists Union will ensure that we are going to have private pathologists and family lawyers in those autopsy rooms when where the bodies are going, the postmortems will be happening for the bodies that have been discovered. This is for transparency and for closure, so that the stories are documented for the families. And even when we come to tell these stories, we are telling them from a professional, there is a professional documentation of what exactly happened. Sometimes these stories are hidden, they are never told, these reports never come out. But ensuring that we have our own privately funded, if we have to crowdfund and have facilitation for these experts, we need our lawyers inside those autopsy rooms, and we need our private pathologist in there to work with their government colleagues, so that we get to have the actual report and get to tell the public what exactly happened. My second proposal that I want to move, and finally, is we want to have a comprehensive judicial commission of inquiry to exactly, I would love us to exactly get to know what happened, who ordered the massive killings of our people, who was in charge of the commanding of the officers, which specific officer pulled which specific trigger, and what was the reason and what was the motivation behind the killing of innocent protesters that went to refuse to protest against overtaxation, against IMF backed proposals to overtax us and to make the cost of living unbearable more than it has been for us. And we want to be sure that the next time such things happen, there is not going to be a repetition of this. There's always a temptation for other political players to tell us, you know, we've been here and there's been no closure for the people who happened, or for people who were killed before. There were no justice. Why? What is your specific interest with this? For us, this is a radical revolution. There is so much clarity in our minds. We don't want to be confused for political matters. These are people that have given up their lives for us. We have people amongst us, patriots, that will never be able to walk again. There are people that will live with trauma. There are people that are going to be psychologically affected. And there's someone who said in another space that we were speaking in the morning, that when everything has settled and all the dust has settled, we all of us will need some therapy because our lives have been disrupted and everything has happened. But before then, we would love to have a serious commission of inquiry in which we are going ourselves to appoint in a citizens' assembly, or we are going to have a say if it has to be presidential in appointment, in which we are going to have. So those two proposals, fellow patriots of doctors and pathologists and our lawyers, being those in rooms where the autopsies are happening, and a judicial commission of inquiry to ensure that we have an account of what has happened. Finally, I would also really love to say this kindly in less than 30 seconds. In the upcoming protests, we would love us to be really careful in documenting and capturing in our phones the people that come to disrupt our movements and give us bad names. For us in Mombasa, we are going to ensure that we capture them, and we have ways of well-built people working probably on the margins as to protect especially the members of our opposite gender, to ensure that they are safe, their handbags are okay, their phones are safe and all that. But in the meantime, we need to ensure that we capture every person's motive, those people that have been motivated to come and snatch phones, handbags, and to loot shops and to burn vehicles and all that. We need them to keep them away because they are giving our movement a bad name. Otherwise, fellow patriots, we are together in the struggle. We are going to win this, and when this history will be written, we're going to be told that our only means of achieving our freedom was our mobile phones to capture the events as they were happening, and our flags to show our patriotism. Viva and congrats for everyone that is in this struggle. Thank you so much, and good night for everyone.
Thank you, Abdul. I think those contributions are important. Before we give the next speaker, I think it's important to respond to some of the issues that have been raised by Steve and Abdul on the question of trumped-up charges by the Director of Public Prosecutions in court. If you have noticed, the prosecutor who approved the charges for the prosecution of the member of the public who said Ruto must go, in that case, and I can speak with authority because the Law Society has been following up closely, the court allowed the person to be released without any cash bail on his personal cognizance, and I think that is important because the question of free speech is a constitutional question. And speaking about Ruto, this is not Uganda, this is not Rwanda, where you speak about the president or you speak the name of the president and you are persecuted. We have to distinguish between the different constitutions within this region and appreciate the freedom of speech, which is guaranteed under the Constitution. And so the Law Society followed up. The person so accused of saying Ruto must go was released on his personal cognizance, And as the Law Society, we are following up on this issue and any other case that is touching on the question of Ruto must go. And then on the question of IPOA, I indicated earlier that the Independent Police Oversight Authority has a duty to document and prosecute police officers who have taken the law unto their own hands and used live bullets, executed citizens, injured members of the public, or used excessive force to people exercising their right to demonstrate and picket within our streets. And this is a message you have sent across the country. I want to make this statement. We have, as a Law Society, offices across all counties within the Republic. We have advocates in Eldoret, we have advocates in Kisii, we have advocates in Mombasa, we have advocates across all counties who are actively involved in documenting injustices against the members of the public. This is not our role in terms of documenting, because if you read the LSK Act, you will find out that under Section 4, we have a duty to advise government and to hold and to advise government about on the questions of the rule of law. We have done that under the leadership of the President of the Law Society of Kenya, Madam Faith Odhiambo. And we continue to do that because it's our responsibility. And we will hold IPOA responsible for the investigations, for the deaths, for the people who are being discovered having been murdered and dumped at Kware and any other place within the Republic of Kenya. Because any life lost, one life lost is one too many. We have to take responsibility for every individual death, and that is the duty of the Law Society, not under this current leadership, but even in the previous leadership, they took that responsibility seriously. You cannot, even if you kill all the council members of the Law Society today, tomorrow, the new council members or the advocates in those positions will still agitate for these positions, because these are duties legislated under the Constitution and under the subsequent legislations through the Acts of Parliament. I think Abdullah has talked about the question of judicial accountability. And I think as a Law Society, we have been agitating for the independence of the judiciary. Because again, under the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the judiciary is supposed to be independent, supposed to discharge its duties without interference from the executive. But again, we have record of cases where we feel the judiciary has been interfered with by the executive. And whereas as the Law Society, we actually agitate for the independence of the judiciary in terms of the decision making, in terms of determining cases that are presented before it, we are not blind to certain judicial officers who are in bed with the executive to undermine the right of the members of the public. And while doing so, they actually undermine their positions as judicial officers to discharge their mandate under the Bungalow principles, under the Constitution of Kenya on the independence of the judiciary. And again, the Law Society under the leadership of the President, Faith Odhiambo, we will not relent in holding these individuals accountable. We have the Judicial Service Commission, and I want to pass my regards and condolences to Honorable Justice Majanja David, who died yesterday. I know for a fact that the Judicial Service Commission is mandated to investigate judicial officers who have absconded their duties, who have taken the law into their own hands to discharge their duties against the constitutional provisions. And again, as the Law Society, we are monitoring what the Judicial Service Commission is doing. Remember, all the cases lodged before them are cases that have been presented by the members of the public on active cases that are in court. I believe the Law Society will continue following up on those cases that have been filed, either through representation by advocates or individuals, members of the public, who have filed cases against the individual judges, and will ensure that the public knows that which judge or magistrate within the judiciary is undermining the rule of law and taking the law in their own hands and abusing the discretion given to them by the Constitution to determine cases on the basis of corruption and on the basis of biasness. I want to invite the next speaker. We have Francis, we have James, we have Pius. Kindly, Francis, if you can hear me, can you take over the microphone?
Thank you.
Council, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Cyprian.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Now, I wanted to share with us two things. Number one is on the conduct of our police, and then on the issue of corruption, and a few proposals. Now, I think as a country, we don't value life that much as to what have been happening since I was born up to where I've reached. So many people die in mysterious ways, and the police just say the normal theatrics they always do. We are doing investigation. The media will only be active within that period when the event occurs, and then after that, it goes. Life goes on after that, and it is very sad that life which is purported to be sacred in Kenya, it is not that sacred. Somebody being butchered, being killed, it is normal in the Kenya that we live in today. And I think that has to stop. There are some funny things that really we need not to. Somebody being butchered. There are things that we need not to pass to the coming generation. For example, the bodies that were being retrieved. I don't want to speculate, but I believe they are going to do honest investigations, and then we'll get to know what really happened. But on the issues, people who lost their life during the demonstrations, these people went out to the street just because something is not happening right. Not because they like, something is not happening right. But now, the police that they are part of us, some of them are even our family members, some of them are our fathers, some of them are our mothers. We are only fighting for a country that we really love because we have only one Kenya. So, when, for example, some of the things that led to youths going to the street are even the high cost of living. For example, 2 years back, we used to buy 2 kg of sugar at 130 thereabout. Now that has doubled price. 2 kgs is almost 500. What used to be 130 in about 2 years' time, and your salary has not increased. So when we say no, that is not right, let us relook into this thing. Somebody sees you as an enemy and shoots you. That is unfortunate. It is high time LSK, together with other bodies, that are mandated to protect the rights of the citizen look into this issue keenly. It is high time we walk the talk. There is no need of just talking and we are not seeing action. For example, now, those who are killed, even the inspector general, it is not just a matter of resigning. He is the one giving orders to the police, if I'm not wrong. Why, before resigning, why hasn't he come out and said, yes, Kenyans, this happened, but we have identified the police, we have apprehended them, we are presenting them to court. Nothing has happened. They are just quiet. IPOA is just saying we are doing an investigation. How many investigations have IPOA done that you all know of? And what good has come out of it? So it is high time we need to talk real issues. And these institutions that are mandated to do so, they need to be held accountable. And I think LSK can do that on our behalf, because we need to make sure that life is sacred and it remains sacred. Secondly, on the issue of corruption, it is too painful that in the 21st century, we are still talking about corruption and nothing is being done about it. The president really, maybe a good number of us voted for him because of what he was able to resonate with most of Kenyans. He promised to fight corruption. And I was wondering, some of the people that he appointed into various positions, people who have been implicated in corruption. So you wonder, is this really the president that really wants to fight corruption? I mean, out of 54 million Kenyans, those who have not been mentioned in corruption, they are not there that cannot take those positions. And then, if maybe I can share with this I'm seeing the senior council members here. Why don't we as a country, I know that maybe death sentence is not allowed in the constitution, but it is high time now we talk about this. We face it as a country because we are having honest conversations. If somebody, for example, steals medicine in KEMSA that is meant for the obstetric, how many people has that person killed indirectly by stealing medicine meant to go to KNH or any other hospital in the country? It could be that that person had killed a good number of people indirectly. That person who needed that medicine in the hospital has died because that medicine is no longer there, because he has stealed it and directed that medicine to a private pharmacy somewhere. So these people should not allow to live within us. We should see a way of amending our constitution and allowing for the corrupt to be hanged. That is the only way we can deal with this thing. Otherwise, people enjoy corruption. It is like just, it is normal. When you are corrupt, it is normal in Kenya. People will just talk about it in social media and it just ends like that. You will hear Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission saying they are doing investigation and the files are just closed after some time. And I think that is not really the way to go. So we need to relook into this issue. LSK, you are the umbrella that represent us there when it comes to legal issues. Why don't we look at a way we can have these people hanged? Because when you indulge in corruption, you are killing another person indirectly. So because you are killing another person indirectly by your acts, you should not be allowed to live as well. So we should review our constitution on that matter, put an amendment in parliament, and then we have these people hanged. So hanging, when you engage in corruption, you steal public money, we just hang you after you have proven to be guilty, of course. So I think that is the way to go. If we really want to deal with this thing, the president should come out and say, no, enough is enough. Now we need to deal with this monster that has really been killing us as a country. So these people should be hanged. It is high time. I know a death punishment was done away with in our constitution, but we need to relook that only for the corrupt. The corrupt, because they are killing us indirectly when they steal medicine in the hospital, they are killing other people. They should also not see the light of the day. I think those are the few things that I wanted to share with us. And I would really like to thank the people of Kenya, especially the youthful age, that saw it fit, deemed it fit, that this country is not moving in the right direction, and it is high time. How painful it may turn out to be, that we speak the truth, and and that, as you have seen, a few changes has come our way, but we really need to press on, especially this issue of corruption. We should do away with it by hanging these people, because if we hang, next time another person will not indulge in that. And then we should also fight that the president, while he will be doing appointment to his cabinet, he will be looking for his new cabinet. People that should be appointed there are people who have who have competence, and who have done some disciplines with regards to what they are being appointed to. For example, maybe a minister in education. That could be somebody who has done something to do with education. Why should you maybe pick an engineer or somebody who has done business to be heading education? I think that is not right. So these are some of the things that maybe those who are close to the president could be sharing, because he said that he will be doing consultation. So it is high time that we hire people based on merit. If you are a CS of education, maybe you have a master's or a degree in education, or a PhD in that case. You have done education and you understand what it means to head our whole Ministry of Education. I think that is the way to go. Thank you very much, Cyprian, for giving me this opportunity. Really, if that thing of corruption touches you as a people, my country people, can you look at that issue and let us have that amendment done, so that these people should be hanged, because they also kill us indirectly. The other time, farmers were sold fake fertilizer. They just talked in the media. What is happening right now? Nothing. The CS is just there. Nothing has happened. Nobody, okay, even leave alone the CS. I have not heard of any major arrest that now they sold the fake fertilizer. In fact, the president was even defending that, only a few percentage. But okay, even if it was a few percentage, what has been done? Has somebody been arrested for that in that case? So we really need to do away with this thing called corruption. Kenya is a rich country. We can even stand on our own without loans, only if we can do with this monster called corruption. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francis. I don't know. Can we have James? James, are you there? Or Pius?
Thank you. Thank you, Kansu. Thank you, Cyprian. And before I speak, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Before I speak, let me send my condolences to all our heroes who passed on during the fight, and also give my flowers to the LSK and the president of LSK, Faith Odhiambo, for the work she's been doing. Mine will be questions and also input. Number one, we need to ask ourselves. Okay, I'm speaking from Carolina, Embu County, and I want us to ask ourselves where the rain started beating us from. And I feel as if the rain started beating us from when we came up with the new constitution and failed to move from the old constitution. We have had numerous backdoor amendment of the new constitution through parliament. And moreover, the assembly, the independence of the National Assembly was compromised through the Political Parties Act. It is not that Parliament or the National Assembly cannot be independent. it should be independent as per the doctrine of separation of powers. But through the Political Parties Act, whereby the political parties can take disciplinary action against members of the National Assembly who go against the political party's agenda. And in most cases, we find ourselves that in Kenya, the president becomes the party leader of the political party. Therefore, if you go against the president's will, the National Assembly, the member of parliament is disciplined. And all of them, we've seen a situation whereby it's God for us all and everyone for himself. And it was even seen when the president decided to dissolve the cabinet, the whole cabinet. I think, in my opinion, we need to amend the Political Parties Act to establish what we call the executive political parties and the legislative political parties. Let the members of parliament and the members of the county assembly vie through the legislative political parties. Let the president and the county governance vie through the executive political parties. Where by so doing, it means that the president cannot have a say indirectly to the National Assembly. If you look at Article 95 of the Constitution, 95 of the Constitution, subsection 95(5)(a) of the Constitution, actually, it's the National Assembly that should be able to vet the president. It's the National Assembly that should also review the conduct of the president and also introduce an impeachment motion of the president in case he fails to do his work. But that cannot be done when these politicians, these MPs, are tied by the Political Parties Act, Section 14 of the Political Parties Act. The other issue, Bwana Wakili, I want to ask is the Constitution of Kenya, as per Article 245, states that the Inspector General of Police is independent. And it is also enforced by the National Police Service Act of 2011, which was revised in 2017. And he should not be taking command from anyone else other than implement himself the policies that have been made. Even though the president sits in the NDC as the chair, then the National Defense Council as the chair, that does not mean that the Inspector General should implement to the letter what is deliberated on the NDC. It is upon his prerogative to give those commands selectively. Therefore, I wish to know whether LSK is taking direct implication to the IG, even though he has resigned, on the errors, on the impunity that has been orchestrated to Kenyans during his reign. The other issue is whether the positions of the chief, the position of the county commissioners, those administrative positions that were there in the old constitution, are they still constitutional? Because they are just ballooning our wage bill. If you look at Section 41 of the National Police Service Act, it provides for the the county policing authority, which, to my thinking, should replace the old version of the PCs, who are now the county commissioners, and ensure that National Police Service is devolved to the county level. But that has not happened. We have always continued to see increase in chiefs, increase in county commissioners, ACCs, and no matter the name we give them, it's my thinking that they are unconstitutional offices which needs to be abolished, and I need to be guided on that. And on the other issue is about the state of emergency that was declared by Duare. Article 58 is very clear that the state of emergency should only be declared in accordance to Article 132(4)(d), which is a law of the president to declare a state of emergency. And Duare, in his Gazette notice, you will note clearly that he stated that he declared the state of emergency in accordance to the NDC, the article that implies about the NDC. Can that gazettement imply that the president delegated his powers to the CS? Whereas we know very clearly that Article 32(4)(d) is a straight authority of the president. By so doing, does the president become incompetent? The other issue I want to tackle is the issue of how do we move forward to ensure that Ruto is out of office. Senior Counsel Ndegwa spoke, and I think, in my opinion, Article 94 of the Constitution, 94(2) of the Constitution clearly states that Parliament manifests the diversity and the will of the people and exercises their authority. I think now we need to occupy all the homes of the 290 members of Parliament until they introduce an impeachment motion in the National Assembly to impeach the president. And they pass it. The moment they pass it, and the president and the deputy president is out of office, then we can look on other arrangements to ensure that the National Assembly or Parliament is independent out of the control by the executive. And even though the IEBC shall not be constituted, the law allows international UN-backed election bodies to take care of the election and ensure that we have a government in place. I rest my case there, and I hope that the questions that I raised will be answered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I respond to some of those questions before we take the next speaker? Because I know we still have the advocates who have made their contributions previously on this call, but it's important that we can address some of the questions as the Law Society for purposes of the public, members of the public and the participants in this forum understanding what we are doing. The previous speaker spoke about imposing the death penalty. It's important for us to appreciate that there's a decision by the Supreme Court on the question of death penalty. The last person we, as a country, actually hanged was Ochuka. And I know most of you are historians as to why. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you. On 23rd of July, July 1987, Ezekiah Rabala Ochuka was the last person we hanged because of questions of taking over, or rather trying to take over government as of that time. Any other person after Hezekiah Ochuka who has been sentenced by the courts in Kenya on the death sentence has never been murdered. A progressive jurisprudence within the Republic of Kenya reflect that individuals who have been sentenced to death, and I can confirm that to date under the Penal Code, constitutional courts, because murder issues are addressed by the High Court, courts have continuously declared the provisions in terms of sentencing to death of individuals who have committed capital offenses. And capital offenses in this case include people who have committed murder, robbery with violence, among other, offenses that are considered under the Penal Code and other statutes as capital offenses. We respect, as an institution, the right to life, regardless of the offenses individuals have committed. And I can tell you, as members of the public, that the power to reinstate, the power to if the death penalty to be reinstated is before the National Assembly. And whereas we have a constitution that respects the right to life, it will take a lot of efforts to reinstate the death penalty, considering the provisions of the constitution and what it stands for in terms of the right to life. And I think Kenya has been a progressive institution in terms of complying with the international provisions on the question of the right to life. We have signed in law treaties and conventions under Article 2 of the Constitution of Kenya that form part and parcel of our laws, that we cannot execute individuals on such offenses. So that now the question that is left to be answered is, what is it that is available to such offenses under the Kenyan Penal Code, which has not been reviewed, the penal code that we have currently has not been changed for a long time. And as the Law Society, we're looking at the provisions of the Constitution and what is it that we can do to ensure that people who violate the rights of the members of the public to the extent of committing public offenses that are actually capital in nature, what are the offenses available? And you know for a fact that individuals who have been sentenced to death under the penal code, they usually are imprisoned for life. Because again, if you have been sentenced to death by the court, the punishment, because the law prohibits and the constitution prohibits you being hanged. Ezekiel Chuka being the last person who was hanged by the Republic of Kenya, then it means you'll rot in jail and you will be in jail for life. There is a question that has been raised about abolition of abolishing chiefs. I will allow my learned colleagues to respond to that. The question of state of emergency, and I think this is a very important question because as a law society, we have instituted proceedings against the declaration by the former cabinet secretary to actually bring the military into the Kenyan streets to assist police officers to keep law and order. I can state with confidence that none of us has seen any member of the military execute through the guns they carry any member of the public. And that's why, as the Law Society, we went to court after the gazettement was issued. And most of you participated in the proceedings that were filed by the Law Society of Kenya before Honorable Justice Mugambi in the High Court of Kenya in Nairobi, the Constitutional Court, and you listened to the submissions of the Law Society of Kenya and the members of the public who are represented by their respective advocates. In those proceedings, our position was very clear that the provisions of Article 241 were improperly invoked by the respective cabinet secretaries. The Gazette notice was wrongly issued. The National Assembly was wrongly constituted to actually give power to the cabinet secretary as per the provisions of Article 241 to deploy the military into the civil space on the question of keeping law and order. And the question of emergency as per Article 58 has not been satisfied and was never satisfied. There is no justification of deployment of the military into our streets. If you look at the submissions of the Law Society of Kenya in the case in question, you will appreciate that we inform the court on the position of the law as to what constitutes an emergency and at what point can the cabinet secretary in charge of that ministry of the defense, as to what time they can be able to actually implore upon parliament to give them powers to exercise the powers contained under Article 241. I will not want to speak in detail on those questions because you know for a fact that these are matters that the Law Society is actually handling in court actively, and therefore our position, however, on this space will be deemed as sub judice, will be challenged in court if we speak into the substantive issues that are before court. But I can guarantee you and the members of the public that this is a question that obviously the Law Society is interested to challenge to its logical conclusion to ensure that at least the court pronounces itself as to what the law provides for under Article 58, read together with Article 241 of the Constitution. I will allow, with the permission of Cyprian, Queen to address this forum and perhaps raise her questions, and thereafter we'll have Andrew, and then thereafter Pius. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Cyprian and Madam President, for hosting this space. I know it's been really a very heavy evening, and with your permission, I would like us to just take a moment and breathe in. I know a lot is happening, and the protests are having a negative impact on our mental health. And so let's just breathe in and out for just a minute, and then I can give my submission. So let's breathe in, out, breathe in, out, breathe in, out. Thank you. Let's remember to breathe in. Let's remember to take time and actually be intentional with our self-care, because in the process of healing and taking care of our mental health, it's going to be very essential for maintaining resilience, unity, and momentum that we need to achieve from this protest. I know most of us are struggling with our mental health, and I'm coming from Mombasa. And I would like to give a hotline number for our psychologists who are ready to offer psychosocial support that anyone may need. So if you can write this toll-free line, please, if you know someone or you could be the one going through this, please call this number 0800 724 420. The number is 0800 724 420. Myself, I'm a trauma-informed therapist, and a mental health advocate. And I know it's high time that right now we be intentional with our mental health. We talk about the impact of protest on our mental health, and we actually hold the government accountable to even increase the financing and budgeting in mental health. So right now, please, if you're struggling with your mental health, it's okay to feel how you're feeling. It's okay to be angry, to be devastated, to have the grief and all of that. Let's feel all our emotions. They're all valid. But also there's something about communal resilience that you're going to get from this. So right now, more than ever, we need community, support one another to get through this. Thank you and have a lovely evening.
Thank you very much for that contribution. At this juncture, even as we allow other members to make contributions, I need to just communicate that as the Law Society will consider having these sessions as we go forward. I want to invite the President of the Law Society of Kenya to give her closing remarks, even as we continue to have this conversation. Kindly, Faith Odhiambo, if you can hear me, I want to pass this mic to you, and then we can be able to allow the other parties to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Manwa, for just holding fort, and Cyprian as well, and the other advocates that were in the session today. Next time, I think we'll organize to have more advocates, so we can have turns and just you share your questions, and we'll be able to respond to the issues as and when they arise. So I would say that it's indeed a turning point, and we thank you for the support and the large number that have joined the Citizens Assembly. It's quite clear that we are more awakened towards knowing and understanding our rights. And most importantly, we hope to have these kind of discourses going forward, that we understand the question of the public debt, we understand the process of choosing the commissioners, and the kind of accountability and transparency that we want to see during these processes, and any proposed changes to the laws and bills that LSK has constantly been doing. We are recently submitting our memorandum of proposed changes on some of the land laws. And so I think we'd be able to host more of this, and particularly this kind of dialogue in the Citizens Assembly with regards to some of the emerging issues that are happening in the state of the nation. So today we have had significant impact on what's happening as a nation. We've seen the address, the resignation by the Inspector General of Police. We have seen the statement by the Director of Public Prosecutions with regards to the bodies that were found, the women's bodies that were found today morning, and his outro that the same ought to be investigated as soon as possible, and also the communication by the Director of the DCI, Director Mr. Men, with regards to the unearthing of the bodies and the action they're going to take. And so we join issue with the same, and we will ensure that we are watching closely with the other partners in the civil society. And please share information, because any information that you share can help us also raise our voice strongly with regards to certain revelations that are coming up. And let's be vigilant as citizens, because we have a responsibility. I liked something that one of the members in today's assembly said, that we vote out people from representing us and we fail to vote in good leaders that will represent us. Remember that because you've chosen a leader doesn't mean you've been voted out from raising your voice. You've been voted out from being a vigilant citizen, that you've been voted out from exercising your constitutional rights, then your right to be heard and to be properly represented by your member of parliament, to hold them accountable. It's high time we take up what Manwa says, the right to your member of parliament. Let those complaints be written down, that by the next and we have a tracking system, the next time they're coming back to us asking for votes, we have evidence, and we can remind our fellow constituents that this is why we do not want this leader, this is why we want this leader. And I think it's high time they did representation rather than administration. they should focus on serving us as members of parliament. And we should remove that CDF fund, which was declared unconstitutional, and as well as the NGAF fund, which is not regulated, and we cannot even hold account our women representative how they use that money, because there's no regulations or directions in how women reps use that money. And it's high time even in Nairobi we ask our women rep, how is she using our money? She collects quite a lot of money, but do we feel the impact of that amount of money? She's seen people have been injured, people have suffered during this protests. I've not seen what tangible amount of money she has actually set aside and said this she has contributed to the protesters to help in those who have been hurt, or to even help some of the questions that we have been fighting as a nation or raising concerns with regards. Let our leaders do their role, let them represent us. That money should go into the rightful places to help uplift healthcare, education, amongst other things that we have raised today. So I thank you for joining the space, and we can commit that we'll host other spaces, and we'll pick topical areas, and from there we pick resolutions of way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, for those submissions. I think it's very important for all the individuals who have participated in this forum to appreciate the fact that we will have continuous spaces to discuss the issues that we have raised since morning through the Citizen Assembly. At this juncture, I will allow Cyprian to take over, because I think at the end of the day, there are members and individuals whose views we have not actually considered in terms of allowing them to participate. If you can allow me, Madam President, we can release you from this forum, and then ask Cyprian to take over in terms of the interventions that will be made. And as the President of the Law Society has indicated, we'll continue to have these events as and when it's necessary, including tomorrow. So I appreciate the participation of a majority of the members and the views that have been considered. We have a majority of our members participating in this process since morning. And I think, as the President has indicated, we have documented the views presented by yourselves as citizens of this republic. We have gone to court to challenge anything that's extra constitutional, and we'll continue to do that as and when the same happens. We are currently focused on what has happened in Nairobi, on the bodies that have been discovered, and I think the President of the Law Society will issue a statement in due course as to what action we'll take on those issues. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. We appreciate the participation of all of you and the views, and we'll consider them even as we make decisions to hold our officials and the people in public office accountable. I appreciate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manwa. I think it's been a very fruitful discussion. It's been very enlightening and very encouraging, because the insights were very powerful, and I think we've listened to some very resonant narratives from various contributors. So we appreciate the feedback. Of course, constructive feedback is key to the growth and the progress of any movement. So we will keep having such conversations, like you said. So I don't think I have much to say, really, or anything to add, because it was more of a forum for the legal questions and getting the perspective from you, the legal experts. So unless the speakers that did not get a chance, maybe now they can, I don't know, can get something from them, maybe final reflections and messages, maybe if you had something to say, because I think we've digested enough of the legal jargon, so I think everyone has grasped something. We've gotten some very actionable ideas from the discussion. So we must sustain the momentum of the movement, and we must ensure that conversations like these we can be had, and efforts must persist even beyond this assembly. So when it's time to show up to the streets, we show up to the streets. When it's time to participate in these assemblies, when it's time to engage the local community, try and educate them. Civic education, very important for the movement to succeed. So I will allow the rest of the speakers who didn't get a chance to maybe air their views today. Again, I understand we have so much to get off our chests. And so the floor is yours. Then again, I insist, remember, just like maybe mention where you're joining the space from, so that we get to understand how far the movement is spreading geographically, what's happening in your area. Yeah, so I will pass on the mic to the next speaker. So maybe I think we can have a lady. Josephine, you can.
I was picked before
Thank
Madam
you, thank you.
President spoke.
Okay, so Andrew. Okay, I'm
I've
very
really
sorry.
waited.
I'm very sorry. So you will proceed from where you left off.
Yes,
Then we
Yes,
can
I've
my name
been here
is.
for long.
just have final submissions, maybe final thoughts. Then I'm sure we can wind up. Just yeah.
Okay, thanks. My name is Andrew Wood. I'm speaking from Nairobi. So there are two issues I wanted to talk about, but I also wanted to react on something that a speaker said in relation to bringing back the death penalty. And what I was going to say in short is, sometimes you might be sharpening a knife to cut something and it ends up cutting you. So these are laws that are regressive and can be used against you at some point, which probably would give us more trouble. I think generally, from all the discussions that have happened since I joined this space, we seem to be putting the parliament to task, and it seems like the weak link for us now is parliament because of their lack of independence. But if you do a root cause analysis, you'll find that at the end of the day, it is corruption, and this time it is corruption because, think about it, these MPs need to, when they are campaigning, you hear them throwing figures, 150 million, 200 million, 800 million for their campaigns. And this is money that goes to us, the voters. You can imagine someone who earns 1 million a month, that's 12 million a year. So for 5 years, that's 60 million. So someone spending 150 million and above, it means that there is somewhere that they're expecting to recoup that money. And how else do you think they will recoup the money? They will get into bed with the executive. And that is where they'll stop representing the people. So as we continue trying to clamor for change in all ways, the biggest change that needs to happen is for us, the voters. Why do we insist that an MP has to spend money so that they can become an MP? Is it possible that we can change how we approach campaigns? Is it possible that something can be introduced to make any candidate declare where their monies for campaign come from, so that they can declare how much they have in stock for campaigns, and what can you use campaign money for? It's okay if you're using it for logistics. It's not okay if you put people on a line and you're giving them cash. And I notice this happens mostly in Western Kenya constituencies. I do not know if it happens in others. I think I've also seen in Nairobi. So it is something that we need to actually start thinking about. How do we deal with voter? Is it something that probably LSK and other similar institutions can do to actually really do civic education for real, not the jokes we usually see IBC doing sometimes, but real civic education, so that when someone is campaigning, they don't need to be people with the most money, and so that by the time that they are actually going to parliament, they don't feel like they don't owe us anything as the people who voted them in. Yeah, I think for now that's just what I was going to comment. And thanks. I think this was really good.
Should I take up? Can you hear me, members? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. My name is Josephine Indinda. I'm speaking from Mombasa. I am a counselor psychologist. I want to appreciate what my colleague, Madam Queen, have just said, and we really want to
Yeah,
take
so
this opportunity.
we can proceed to the next speaker. Josephine, I see your speaker is on.
Yeah, can you hear me? Cyprian, can you hear me? Can you hear me, members?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I want to take this opportunity to appreciate the LSK for the great job
So
that they've
since we
been
can't get
doing.
Josephine on the call, I think someone else can take over. I think we can have Dennis, then Amanda can go next. So Dennis, if you're ready, you can take over. Sir, are you on the call? Guys, can you hear me?
Is it that you cannot hear me, Mr. Cyprian?
The speakers confirm if
Josephine
you
is
can hear
speaking.
me. Then
We
if
can
you're
hear you.
ready,
Yes, Cyprian, can you hear me?
yeah, if you're ready, just
Justin,
shoot.
we can
If you're
hear
ready,
you.
just yeah. So we'll allow
Thank you.
Amanda because she's not spoken before. Then you can follow.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope everybody can hear me. I would like to first congratulate the LSK and other professional bodies for coming together, and the fact that Kenyans are uniting under one cause, not only because we are pained individually, but even collectively, and fighting together for our generations to come. I've also learned a great deal about the Constitution, what it entails, the whole process, and also just calling upon. Oh yes, sorry, I forgot to say where I'm from. Mi natoka Mombasa, eneo la Kisauni, lakini pia mi ni mkazi wa Nairobi, kwa hivyo nakata pande zote mbili, so both Mombasa na pia Nairobi. And also just to emphasize on the need for mental health, a big thank you for the speaker who told us to take breathing exercises. And maybe just a question to pose in case maybe the co-hosts can answer. Is there a way we can get our are they the baby boomers? How can we also help to bring them up to speed? Today I was having a conversation with my auntie, and sadly some of them still have that kind of thinking that brought us here in the first place. And even as we build up to 2027 and engaging ourselves with knowledge, looking at the competencies of these people instead of tribal lines, just an open discussion. How do we get to win them over, and just try and change their kind of thinking? Because as we move forward, we need to also pull all the people along with us. So yeah, those are my submissions, and well done to the team for bringing this space together. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, thank
thank
you. I
you,
hope you
Amanda.
can hear me,
So I
members.
think we can have another speaker. So if Dennis, you're ready, you can shoot your question or your views so that we can proceed. If not, I'll have to drop you from the call so that we can someone else can take up that
Mr.
space.
President, can you hear me? It was my
Okay, I
turn
don't
and I
think we
never
have
spoke.
Dennis on the call. So next in line, you can kindly proceed.
This Josephine, can you hear me?
The speakers.
Can I speak? I hope you can hear me.
Yes, yes, kindly proceed.
All right. I am so sorry to keep harping on this issue.
Okay.
And I brought it up earlier when I was on when I spoke earlier, but I don't think it was fully understood, and especially the urgency with which it needs to be taken. I've worked with the government. I've worked with some parastatals. I also have insider information from some governmental state organizations on how things happen. What people do not know is that sometimes corrupt deals are done. For example, I'll give an example. Let's say at Kengen. That's just an example. I'm not saying it's Kengen. But as a corrupt deal is done, and when it is brought out or about and it is cancelled, people need to understand that because a contract was signed, the people who are awarded that tender will take that organization to court and they will be awarded money. This has happened. I personally have actual information that this has happened in some particular state organizations. I can give an example of KEBS, where corrupt deals were being awarded, and when it was brought to the board level and those deals were cancelled, the people who were awarded the tenders moved to court and they were awarded billions of shillings, Kenyan people's money. They were awarded for no work. They were awarded interest and all that, and still a new tender had to be issued out to another company to do the same work that had been that had been contracted to corrupt in a corrupt way. And that's why I'm saying, even as we are planning what we are going to do, the way you plan things is you have short-term goals, which are immediate things that need to be handled. You have mid-term goals and you have long-term goals. My biggest issue right now is the ministries that have been vacated by the CSs. We know, some of us, again, not me personally, maybe one or two things I know, but I know there are people here who are listening here who know of corrupt deals that have already happened or corrupt deals that are in the pipeline that are waiting to be executed. And that's why I'm saying that's money that is going to be lost. We are already crying that we don't have money. There is something we can do right now to stop the deals that have been put in place that might happen and drain people of more taxpayers' money. I understand the lawyer who spoke earlier said that the Auditor General carries out audits every year, but the auditor is doing retrospective auditing. She's going back to see what was done in the year. What by the time the auditor is catching these things, they have already happened. We have a chance right now to step in and assess things and see what is in place that has the potential to drain Kenyans of money that can be stopped now before it happens. And that's why I'm saying, as a short term, urgent um, uh, target or something that we can do urgently right now, is there a way we can request that we review all contracts, all tenders that have been allocated by the ministries, any deals that have been put in place, what process was taken for those deals to be awarded before they were awarded, and any that is pending, to be awarded in the next couple of months, so that we stop it. There is no point of us coming to look at the Auditor General's information next year and learn that this is something we could have stopped today. Eli, sorry. I have a dog here that is, I'm really sorry about that. But I hope I'm making sense. The Auditor General will give us retrogress things that happened in the past. what can we do right now to stop things from happening right now before the new the new cabinet secretaries come in and say, I found it had already happened. When I stopped it, we were hit by lawsuits and we still had to pay out anyway. I don't know if people are getting how it feels urgent for me because I have seen it happening and we were hand tied and there was nothing we could do and people had to pay. The organization I was working with at that time had to pay money. So is there a way? Is there a way we can file a petition? Is there a way LSK can push for this in court? What can we do right now before the new CSs come in to take over the ministries? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know if we have any counsel still on the call, but those are some very good issues you've raised over there. It is true, judicial complacency is a very big fact. It's undermining the